All right, everybody. Thanks so much for stopping by another live episode of Real Estate Titans, sponsored by Lion Bolt Media. I'm your host, Greg Fowler, traveling throughout the marketplace, interviewing the top professionals in our field, essentially gathering insight, inspiration, really drives and motivates these top producers above and beyond everybody else in what I'd like to consider a real estate titan. And our very special guest and feature titan for episode 293 from beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada, none other than my good friend, Michael Coxen. Michael, it's an honor and a pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show today.
The honor is all mine, Greg. Thank you. Appreciate that. It's good to be
Uh,
here.
this is great. The humility that's coming out of you already, my friend, is incredible. And you've just done so much into your life and career up to this point and continue to, Michael. So I can't wait for the audience to really soak you up, understand who you are and what you do in the industry of real estate if they've been living under a rock for the past period of time and they don't know you. So I do want to dive into that, Michael. Really kind of starting with the first question that everybody tunes into is really the origin story, right? So, who you are, where you come from, what got you into the business, and kind of your journey that's leading us up to our conversation today. Let's just kind of start with that.
Go back to day one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned humility. Definitely something, it's funny you mentioned that word because I've always, I would say, I've been a confident person going back to childhood. I was thanks to great parents, was raised in a great town called Croton-on-Hudson, New York. It's a suburb of New York City. Had great friends, was always kind of the captain of the kickball team in elementary school and ultimately the captain of the football team in high school. And I've always just been a natural kind of leader and I would say entrepreneur. My father was the chief of police in my hometown, so he had a
Wow.
great job, but he also always had some sort of side business. In high school, he would flip cars. He eventually had a taxi company, and then he sold cars again later in his life. So I had a father who was all about the hustle and doing deals. And then I had an older brother who was also entrepreneurial. So I just always have had it in me to I knew I wanted to do something.
Wow.
Um, I started reading real estate books in high school just because I wanted to, I knew that's where kind of the money might have been, and as an investor was what I was thinking.
Okay.
Got into the music industry. That was actually my brother's company, a great magazine called Wax Poetics for record collectors and DJs, and I sold advertisements, commission only.
Wow.
I always like to say I never had a real job. I've always, paid my bills by killing what I eat. So they say.
Love it.
So I sold print advertisements in a magazine, a little bit of online ads and sponsorships, and it was a struggle, man. I mean, it was hard. This was a niche music magazine that was in print.
Mm,
So the year was about 2008.
mm.
Recession hit. My dwindling ad dollars just dwindled down to next to nothing.
Wow.
Moved out to Las Vegas. I fell in love with a girl who's from LA. She moved to
Okay.
New York.
Mm,
Her name is Brooke. She's currently my business partner and actually has been a business partner of mine for most of our marriage.
love it.
So yeah, we moved to Vegas. Her parents had retired here. Her twin sister had moved here.
Mm.
So she was kind of done with New York. And my financial prospects were dwindling, and the greatest asset I had was that beautiful woman.
Wow.
And I asked her to marry me and moved out west.
Ah.
That same year, you want me to pause there?
I don't
So
know. Michael, I just wanted to jump in on that because one of the biggest things, and so many of us who are, married will understand this aspect, and maybe ones who aren't currently are tuning in, please take heed to this. But one of the most important decisions that I've ever heard really successful individuals, not just professionally, but also personally, make is their spouse. And the fact that you had taken that opportunity to seize that moment with that right person is huge, Michael. And again, I can't necessarily speak for you. I guess I can speak for myself. I wouldn't be the man that I am today without my wife. And, it's truly an important decision that we make as
yeah,
choosing a partner or a life partner. So didn't
I
mean
couldn't
to
agree
interrupt
more.
there, but
Like it's easy to connect the dots when you look backwards. At the time, it was a major decision. I was young. I was only 26.
sure.
To move across country and get married at that age was a massive decision.
Yep.
I think the fear decision would have been to just let her go and stay in my little bubble of New York that I knew very well, even though maybe it wasn't going great.
Sure.
But I just had that mindset of like, what's the worst that could happen? I
Mm,
can come back. And I knew I loved her enough to, even though I was only 26 and I only had a handful of relationships, I just knew she was different.
mm,
And you hit the nail on the head, man. That was the best decision in life and business I ever made was the right partner.
mm. I love it. I didn't mean to digress. I just had to shout it out for all the audience out there too. I love what you're saying.
Happy to digress on that subject anytime.
You're in Vegas. You're in Vegas now, so let's pick it up there. That'd be great.
Yeah, so in 2010, Brooke and I got married. We moved across country and we started a business.
Wow.
It was a busy, busy year.
Wow.
So the first business was a graphic design studio that specialized in high-end wedding invitations.
Wow.
So completely removed from real estate. That was my wife's thing. She was a graphic designer by trade. She'd done some sponsorships and sales. She was one of the best employees anyone could ever ask for. And as an entrepreneur, I said, you need to put this effort into your own business. So we started a company called Paper and Home,
Mm,
started from a bedroom in our house.
mm.
I'll tie in the real estate story here. I mentioned '08 was when this started to happen. '09, Brooke's brother-in-law and my brother-in-law now is a real estate agent in Summerlin in Las Vegas. And he's like,
Ah.
houses are on sale. You got to buy one. You got to buy one. And thankfully, Brooke listened.
Mhm.
She bought this small single family house
Mm.
in Summerlin that we moved into a year later in 2010 and turned a bedroom into a business. And
Wow.
we grew it. We outgrew that bedroom. We opened a storefront. We hired employees. I got my real estate license, and I was kind of doing both for a while.
Okay.
I was doing part-time real estate, full-time paper and home.
Mhm.
Eventually, the goal was to get me out of it. That's why we kept hiring people to replace me.
Okay.
My wife and I are big systems people. I'm going to shout out the first of probably many books on this interview is called
Mm.
The E-Myth,
Oof.
the entrepreneurial myth. It's all about setting up systems. A real business is not just you, which a lot of real estate agents are just them, solopreneurs doing everything. A real business has systems. So we
Mm.
actually read that book and built a business plan. I remember reading that book at a bar in Brooklyn and just highlighter tags notes and we made a great plan over the course of I'd say a week just pounding through that book. So it was built for systems, and I replaced myself and started selling more and more real estate.
Wow.
It started with, the good old sphere of influence, and that's still the number one pillar of my business. And it was in the wedding industry. So some of my first clients were photographers, photo booth owners, hair and makeup artists. This was my SOI. This is what I was marketing towards and became friends with these people.
Mm.
And that just bloomed from there.
Mm.
And yeah, there was a huge turning point where I joined a real estate team.
Okay.
I was many years into it, and if you're new or if you're 5 years into it and you don't know what to do next, join a team.
Wow.
Like the mentorship I received is what catapulted me into my great success. I'd still be out there flailing around if it wasn't for joining a team, getting the structure, and learning systems in real estate.
Wow.
So I got systemized.
Mm.
I hired some admins that the team provided, and my business just blew up. I went from at most, I think I did 8 or 9 deals in a year up to 40 deals in a year, and that's all due to systems.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, huge into that perspective, Michael. And again, thank you for sharing that because anybody tuning in who's newer into the business, there's so many decisions that have to be made on a regular basis as an entrepreneur. But in the space of real estate, how do you do it? Who do you follow? What do you learn? What actions to take? And the best way to learn that is going on a team, not necessarily being on an island by yourself. Hey, to each their own. Everybody's got a
Mhm.
path, but I love the fact that you're, kind of bestowing that. So from that point, Michael, what does it look like in progression? So, going from, the eight some odd transactions to 40 some odd plus transactions, take us through your real estate journey. I mean, obviously, I do want to talk about everything that we're talking about as far as your brokerage is concerned and, kind of the steps of the team and how
Yeah.
that comes about.
Yeah, I will say, I talk I also have a podcast called The Mindful Agent. I
Oh,
talk
yeah.
to team leaders on this podcast, and I'll just share like a thread I hear from team leaders. And having been one, I still technically am one, but having run a team and having been on a team and talking to team leaders, one issue I see is team associates. So if you're listening here and you're going to join a team,
Mhm.
100% subscribe to that team leader's systems, assuming they're a good leader who has proven and you can see they have a track record.
Wow.
Do not reinvent the wheel.
Hmm.
Do what you're told, take your splits,
Hmm.
and realize that you're paying for the price of admission to be successful.
Mm.
You can go out there and get 100% of a commission somewhere and do 8 deals. If you're lucky, maybe you do a little bit more. But wouldn't you rather do 40 at 50% or 75% and really make money and really get good,
Mm.
getting those reps in? So like join a team and be loyal. Stay on that team. That
Mm.
team leader is giving you the secret sauce. And yeah, there's a price for that, but just know, play the long game. You're
Mm.
getting better and better, and you're going to be a better person, a better agent. I would remain loyal to that team leader.
Mm.
Maybe it's because I had an entrepreneur background. I had owned a business when I joined a team. I
Uh-huh.
really respected what my team leaders were doing,
Oh.
and I followed the systems. And then I stayed on their team for many, many years,
Mm.
and I did very well. And we both made a lot of money. And one day they came to me almost out of the blue and made me a partner,
Wow.
and that loyalty paid off.
Mm.
I gladly accepted. That's my wife came on at that point as the brand director with her background in graphics and marketing,
Yeah.
and here we are today building a brokerage called Magenta
Mm.
that we're super proud of.
Wow. And I love the fact that, kind of culmination for Magenta and how that came about. I appreciate where you're coming from, Michael, when you talk about understanding the price of admission. And the fact of the matter is the loyalty that's associated. And you and I, as well, have had so many conversations with incredible team leads and producers. And that is a big issue, is people saying, I'm pouring all this knowledge and support and systems into somebody just for them to get successful up and leave.
Mhm.
And I think that looking at it from the standpoint is, as a leader, giving the individuals the reason to not want to is constantly showing the value that goes through. But ultimately, if somebody decides to make a decision, it's their personal life. Can't be upset with them for doing those things that is they feel is best for their
Yeah,
future and for their family. If you put yourself in their directive and shoes, but I agree for the standpoint of, go far together, go fast alone, if we want to kind of break it down that way. So I think it
love that.
depends on what you're trying to do with your career. And there's no one size fits all in this business, as you know, but I do want to talk about your podcast, Michael, because to me, from one podcast host to another, and the audience is tuning into this too, they're always looking for great content to dive into, to learn from, and people to kind of connect with. So can we talk about the Mindful Agent a little bit, like why you started it and kind of what it's all about and, kind of where people can tune in, I guess, just
Yeah.
for you.
Sure. I mean, it started with, I mean, it's a long story. I'll get into the origin story of that
Sure.
after I kind of give the overarching view. But the mindful agent is it goes beyond the sale. We're talking with real estate agents, but also wellness professionals, architects, coaches. It's about mindfulness in this business. I think it's always been kind of a stigma to have a more spiritual side, for lack of a better term, and to be um, holistic in sales. I feel like these things have always kind of contradicted. I grew up of an era of ABC, always be closing. Coffee is for closers. Second place is a set of steak knives. Third place is you're fired. These are all Glengarry Glenn Ross quotes in
Oh
case
yeah.
for the
Love it.
young
Alec
folk.
Baldwin classic right
Yeah.
there.
So, like that was sales to me, right? And Gordon Gecko and all that stuff. Like I grew up that way and it never really resonated with me. I had a hard time like pounding these hard-hitting scripts on the phone. It just wasn't for me. And I had a health journey that made me kind of realize health is wealth. And I it's a message that, I've been kind of writing notes down and journaling about this for years. And, I was like, am I going to write a book? Ultimately, I thought about writing a book and maybe one day I will, but I enjoy like these conversations. I
Yeah.
kind of had a moment where I'm like, I love to sit down with people and just tell my story, hear their story,
Mhm.
and try to inspire people to use mindfulness and wellness to be a salesperson, like
Wow.
to the other centered sales approach.
Mhm.
Put yourself in their shoes, look in your client's eyes and see yourself, see the connection, true empathy for that person, and fulfilling what they need done, not what you need done. We talked a minute before offline about a book, Ninja Selling,
Mhm.
and that is they use service above sales as a mantra,
Mhm.
and it's that exact mindset of be a person of service and be a person of value. That's how you sell a lot of real estate. My clients come back to me because they trust me, and they should trust me because I'm trustworthy.
Mhm.
authentically all the time. I tell them exactly how I feel and how I would do it, even if that means I don't get a commission.
Wow.
And that philosophy has made me more money. So it is win-win. I've become a great salesman by not selling.
Mm.
So that's what the mindful agent's all about. I really want to know how people use mindfulness in their sales to grow a business. There's great books that like speak to me. There's one called The Buddha and the Badass.
Oh.
How to merge your spiritual life, your spiritual life with your hustle.
Mm.
Because I'm not going to be sitting up, in a mountain in the Himalayas meditating. That's not me. I struggle to meditate for 5, 10 minutes a day.
Wow.
I don't want to be a Buddhist monk, but I
Mm.
also don't want to be like this staunch capitalist. And I'm trying to find the middle ground. So that's why I launched the podcast. Hear whatever how everyone else is doing it.
I love that, Michael, and I appreciate that. I'm definitely going to have to add the Buddha and the Badass to my list of books. I'm always looking for great reads, things to inspire and motivate. But you painted a picture. I could see you kind of cross-legged, hands up, meditating on top of a mountain in a way. So that, but I get you. Like
With a
some
laptop in front of me, maybe. Yeah,
one
that's my new
hand
logo.
and it's funny that way. And again, I know that you live this, you eat and sleep and breathe this, Michael, which is such a great thing. And I love your perspective on the podcast. Personally, I'm going to be diving in and subscribing and tuning in with the rest of the audience. But I encourage everybody, if you are looking for great content to really understand the ins and outs of what Michael discussed, there it is. It's right here. We'll have links in the show notes below. Subscribe. Don't forget to do that. Now, Michael, I want to dive into kind of the secondary piece of this because, yes, everybody wants to know who the Titan is, but they also want to know life and learning experiences. You've already dropped some incredible, gems with us already. But if you could look back at your career thus far and pick or choose one or two things that you added or implemented that you really saw growth in a positive movement in the needle to the business, what would that be? What advice would you give anybody tuning in today, listening to your episode here?
Yeah, the first and foremost is what we covered, which would be joining a team
Hmm.
slash having systems.
Got it.
You have to have a plan, you have to have systems and run your business like a business. The biggest turning point for me, honestly, was falling in love with the process
Hmm.
and detaching from the outcome, which is actually, a Buddhist philosophy.
Hmm.
And I applied it to business. Like that, when we think about the commission, when we think about our net worth and our goals and our financial gain, it moves a lot slower. Getting to that goal, it just feels longer. Time is funny that way,
Hmm.
where the time can just extend as opposed to getting hyper focused on what we're doing now.
Hmm.
This conversation, could move the needle in ways I can't imagine.
Hmm.
And if I'm thinking about the next appointment or the client or all that, I'm not giving you my full attention. And yeah, this could move the needle, but not as far as if we're actually engaged with one another,
Right.
and our energy is devoted to one another. So I treat that, say, when I'm with a client, when I'm showing homes, just very open to their feedback and present in that house. I know we got 5 more houses to see, and I know we're 10 minutes late, and that's a stressor we feel as an agent. Just
Hmm.
let it go for a second, trust the process, focus on the process, and then the outcome will occur. And one thing I really had to work on was that and my patience. So as an entrepreneur, as a go-getter, I'm super motivated, I'm competitive. To
Hmm.
be able to slow down and be patient is not easy for a guy like me. I like doing multiple things at once. I like seeing outcomes. I'm constantly dissatisfied just after the next thing.
Hmm.
So I worked really hard on patience. And there's a quote, infinite patience produces immediate results.
Ooh.
And I had to wrap my head around that for so long, even when I say it out loud. So just to be infinitely patient,
Hmm.
I'm actually producing the results that I want as opposed to trying to chase them. So
Wow.
that is a philosophy that is like, I'm working on it
Hmm.
every day, both in business, in my relationships, friends, family, spouse. And I've found that that's where life happens too. The power of now, Eckhart Tolle, like
Hmm.
life is always happening now. Even if it's a situation you don't want to be in, you want to go to the next appointment. That's not where life is because that's just going to be a now then. So when you get there, be present, be patient.
Hmm. Oh my gosh. Michael, as you're breaking that whole thing down, and I know that it's resonating with everybody in the audience, I try to be the mouthpiece or the sounding board for everybody tuning in. And I know that that's applicable for everybody who is watching or listening, whether it's now or after the fact. Because being present in the moment and being truly engaged with the individual or individuals that we're with at that time is paramount to love, to life, success. And I love that you mentioned family, personal relationships, as well as clientele and everything to do internal to business, because that will transcend everything. I mean, anybody who has a spouse or significant other or children will understand this from a personal standpoint to be present. I mean, as entrepreneurs and especially high drivers, there's always things going on, pulling in a million different directions, tasks and objectives that need to be accomplished that are late or they don't want to be. And it's very difficult for us to just have a intimate conversation with one another, right? So taking that and filling each other's cup with the emotional currency that that provides is
Yeah.
huge. That's huge advice from a spouse, relationship, best friend, family member, whatever the case may be, or to children. But I think to your point, to really positively move the needle for your relationships for business purposes, huge advice. On the secondary note of the patience portion, to me, that's one of the hardest pills to swallow
Me
as
too.
an entrepreneur is, we want to be here when we're here. And, why is it taking so long? And what, how come these people are there and I'm not? All these different things, self-reflection and comparisons. Um, Patience is a virtue.
Yeah.
And
Do you know how many people are asking, how is Greg here and I'm here? Like, how do I get to where Greg is? Like, there's far more people asking that than you know. There's always somebody like, and even Greg of 1999 or Greg of 2012 is like, can't wait to be Greg of 2025.
uh, I would hope that younger Greg wouldn't try to beat older Greg up if he saw him, in a parking lot.
He'd give you a
But
high five.
I would think so. I think it'd be more of a high five scenario. And I appreciate you saying that, Michael. I think that, truly all of us can have perspectives onto those things. For me, personally, I think that we really want to be focusing, as you'd mentioned, on what's in front of us, what we're with and doing now, because we have action taking that we can apply and moving of positives that way. If we're
Yeah. Do you know how
focusing
much
oh, go ahead. No, no.
like listening, you mentioned like filling other people's cups.
Mhm.
Just I'm being hypocritical as I cut you off,
No, no, no.
but do you
This is
know how
good.
much
I love it.
listening matters like to somebody, when you're at a listing appointment and you ask a question like, so, what has you looking to make a move? And you just shut up
Mm.
and listen for however long they want to talk, you got the listing. Like you don't even have to give the presentation. Like, I mean, 50% of it is just good active listening and taking down some notes. Like, and in your relationships with your spouse and your partner, like and that's a lesson I have to learn too, especially, not to be sexist, but men often want to offer solutions, right? Like it's kind of just in our DNA. A lot of men will agree with me,
Yep.
where a lot of times women just want to vent and get it off their chest and be heard. So we're, and we love our wives and we want to provide a solution. We think we're helping them, and we're not. This is a huge battle within me to not offer a solution as a driver, and just listen. And like that's all it takes sometimes, and the patience to listen will get you a lot in life, in your relationships and in your sales.
I I love it. And again, Michael, bringing it back to the personal side of it and the business aspects of it, this is huge. And for everybody to take these to heart and truly understand, it doesn't happen overnight. I mean,
No.
listening to this and being inspired by Michael right now, you're not going to change today, but you can make change today, if that
Yeah,
makes
I'll be very clear. I don't do it all the time. I do not want to put myself on a pedestal. I don't want people to think I figured it out. I probably got serious on this journey about 10 years ago. I'm 40 years old.
sense.
So did nothing for 30 years, started working on it about 10 years ago, and I'm doing my best every single day. I've definitely improved. When I look back on 2010 me, yeah, I'm so proud of myself where I am today, and I hope to say that about 2040 me. It's a lifelong journey, a life of learning, having a growth mindset, and always be wanting to get better.
Mm.
Kaizen is the Japanese term for continuous improvement. It's a philosophy of mine
Wow.
that I'm working towards. So always know you can do better, and there's always tomorrow to do better.
Wow. I love this, Michael, all day long. And I wanna kind of package this up in such a way because I know that there's so many people that they're gonna want to connect with you. They're gonna want to know more and, align with you as an individual, but you obviously as a business professional. So when it comes down to connecting with you, to learning more, if something stood out to somebody, what's the best way for anybody tuning in to connect with you, get a hold of you, to spark up a conversation? What's that look like?
Yeah, directly connect with me anytime. It's keep it simple. I'm at Michael Coxen on every major platform. Magenta Real Estate in Las Vegas is the brokerage, but yeah, reach out to me. I'm all about living a life of service and coaching, and I don't look at myself as a teacher. Honestly, I look at myself more as a student. And I have as much to learn from you as you may have to learn from me. I just feel open to having these conversations. It's what I enjoy doing. I find it to be just what fills my cup.
Mm.
So reach out anytime.
Okay.
I do have the podcast, The Mindful Agent, if you just want to, do some passive listening, hear from me, as well as other leaders in the industry. But yeah, DM me anytime.
This is killer stuff, Michael. And again, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to share your story, share a little bit about who you are and what you've accomplished in this world so far. And I know there's so much more to go. And I'll be excited to maybe have an episode 2.0 on Real Estate Titans to kind of catch up, see how things have been since
Yeah,
this
man.
conversation. So definitely be honored to have you back again for sure, my friend.
I appreciate it, and we'll hopefully have you on the Mindful Agent here soon. Um, if you have time, there is one more story I would love to tell
Oh,
the audience that
Michael, please do. Oh my
you
gosh.
reminded me. It was actually in our call the first time we spoke. Um, you asked me more about my story,
Mhm.
and I just feel compelled to share it now. My health journey.
Okay.
I think you and I share similar issues here, and that is ulcerative colitis. It's something I want to talk about. It's not talked about. And when I was really struggling with this disease, I felt very lost. So I want to talk to the person out there who may be struggling with some intestinal disease or any other illness that they're scared of, because I was diagnosed with this. I don't remember the year, maybe '07.
Okay.
It's always a kid with irritable bowel syndrome, always had stomach aches and things growing up. Turns out to be there's ulcers in my intestines, which it's an autoimmune disease and it's incurable, so
Mm.
they say. And I struggled. I'm 6 foot tall, 180 pounds.
Mm.
I was down to 115 pounds. Literally everything I ate ran right through me. I was going to the bathroom up to 20 times a
Wow.
day and night, not sleeping, couldn't eat. I mean, and that just taxes your body and your mind. I was an entrepreneur, as I mentioned, running a business. I didn't have a salary. I didn't have health insurance.
Mm.
I had to just figure this out. My wife, talk about her again, God bless her, nursed me back to health, was my partner along as my business partner and ran our company while I was bedridden for 6 months.
Wow.
It was an absolute journey through hell. And that was what truly turned my life around. I realized no matter what, I'm nothing without my health. It's
Mhm.
a cliche, but better believe me when I tell you it's true. So whether you have something or not, if you just prevent disease by taking care of yourself, but if you're going through this journey, I just want to share what got me through it because I went through so many different modalities, Eastern and Western philosophies, multiple medications, steroids. I was basically at high risk of colon cancer and getting my colon cut out, having a coloscopy bag, and that was just something that I was not willing to give into right away, despite the advice of medical doctors.
Wow.
I decided I got to give this a shot and get better.
Mhm.
And a major part of my recovery was mindfulness. It was meditation. It was manifestation, literally visualization of my cells healing,
Wow.
sitting in silence. I was bedridden. I had nothing else to do. Instead of watching cartoons and The Price is Right, I would just sit outside and meditate and visualize healing,
Mm.
white light coming into my body, into my intestines. Just this sounds woo-woo to some, and this is not a spiritual podcast, nor is this a religion or any kind. I'm just telling you what I believe works for my physical manifestation, and I'm proof here, back to 180 pounds,
Wow.
that it worked for me. So take it or leave it. But that's one aspect: visualization, manifestation, meditation, nutrition, sleep, rest, recovery, and stress management, as well as dealing with past trauma. There's something that really stood out to me. This is actually a recent lesson. Like, we have these capital T traumas some go through in life.
Mhm.
We're talking about rape, murder, assault, major traumas, car crashes, you name it, and some of you have been through. But a lot of us have been through what they call lowercase t traumas, which is more daily, abuse or daily stress that's acute, but every single day. And that was more my life, and nothing terrible, but just being a child of divorce, seeing what I saw there, having my own insecurities as a young man in New York City, being broke, like all these things, just dealing with addictions, cigarette smoker, pothead, alcoholism, like all these little things. I was just not treating myself well mentally and physically, and that's where I think I got sick. So I changed all that and addressed all that, addressed childhood traumas. And I really feel like that was the turning point for healing.
Wow.
So I just want to encourage somebody to give it a try, seek therapy, mental therapy, physical therapy. Don't do it alone. You're not alone. And I encourage any of those people to reach out to me if they just want a partner. Because I right now I'm a cyclist. I've done, sprint triathlons. I've, do century rides constantly. I trail run. I lift weights. I'm as healthy as could be.
Wow.
I know what I'm sensitive to in my diet.
Mhm.
I try to avoid gluten. It inflames me, but it doesn't kill me. So I mean, I can definitely indulge in some pizza, but that's thanks to like years of work. So
Mm.
I mean, I've done it. I still take some anti-inflammatory medication. There was periods where I was trying not to do any medication, but like I said earlier, I found this balance between Eastern and Western modalities, and I think that is the key to curing or at least living with a lot of disease. And I just felt compelled. I want to share that message to anyone out there and let them know I'm a resource for them.
Michael, I didn't know where the conversation was going to go, and you and I had a beautiful conversation. You would say off camera, right, in the green room,
Mhm.
as they say, or on a phone call prior to,
Mhm.
and kind of going over our personal journeys, and that to me it's absolutely inspiring and humbling for anybody who's tuning in because look, at face value, when they think of this show right off the bat, real estate titans, what does it make you feel? Somebody at the peak, the pinnacle, they've been there, done that, highest possible levels of configuration to life and business. But everyone is dealing with something. And most of us are suffering in silence. And there's so much that can be done by sharing a story and connecting with people, understanding that most of the things that we've felt or feel or are going through, somebody else has already experienced that and come out on the other side of it, one
Yeah.
way or the other. And I think that to me, and hopefully to everybody who's tuning into this, we greatly appreciate the fact that you're able to share these things with all of us, Michael. But ultimately, I would encourage everybody to do the same. And again, you don't have to go on an international podcast and air everything out that's on a personal basis, but understand that the more conversations that we can have and the more we can share with others like us or others that have certain battles that they're dealing with, it's only going to help. And I just can't thank you enough for sharing that. And I know you and I will be in constant communication about life and
Yeah.
health and journey that way too, my friend. But yeah,
I double down on that, man. It's like we're this society of like looking tough and hold and like keeping your secret secret and holding back it's bullshit. Like, everybody's got something, as you said, and vulnerability is necessary for growth. Everyone's got a story, and share yours because you could help somebody. You are somebody, as you said. You don't have to be on a podcast to help. Share it with a friend. Let's be open. We got to recognize we're all in this together. We all come from the same place. We're all going to go to the same place, and we need to enjoy the journey together and realize that we're a team.
Mm. Huge stuff, Michael. Again, thank you so much for adding that into the equation here, putting a ribbon or a bow on everything, my friend. It's been an incredible episode, and again, I can't thank you enough for just taking the time to share your story, to share your journey, and what you've learned thus far. And like I said, I can't wait to have you back on at some point to see what else you've overcome and have grown and succeeded with, Michael. You're an inspiration, my friend. Thanks again.
Thank you for taking the time and making the space to talk with me. Appreciate you, Greg.
Awesome. This is great. And everybody, I have to thank you again, as always, for your time and attention, your love and support. If you like what we're doing with Real Estate Titans, don't forget to subscribe, to like, to engage with this content. You do know what to do at this point, but I have to say it anyway. I want to give our sponsor a quick shout out, Lionbolt Media. If you are a real estate professional looking to grow and scale your business with leading edge digital marketing, visit lionboltmedia.com for more information. We're live here every Tuesday afternoon, a different Titan, a different location. Catch everybody in the next live episode of Real Estate Titans. Take care. Thanks, Michael.
Thanks, guys.